first question.
Dana, is there any update on Tayshawn?
Everybody should be fine, good to go, ready to go. You know, there's 3 or 4 of them that didn't practice last night. Tayson could have went back in. You know, I was very happy with how Brandon Campbell was running the ball. So I'd rather rest Tayson. I thought Stacy got some good snaps too. We talked about this after the game. With going into the game, you know, we thought Tayson would be kind of the one that we relied on the whole time, and then after 10 plays, he got nicked up and gave us an opportunity to go with those other 2 guys. So, everybody that was played in the game should be available to play in the game, including Manny and Henry, who didn't make the trip.
Dana, you mentioned after the game that you want to do a better job of keeping Clayton from running as much, getting as many hits. Is that easier said than done? For instance, this week against Tech, trying to keep him from doing those kinds of things?
Defenses dictate that. You know, I mean, UTSA's plan was to drop a bunch of people and make us be patient. So when that happens, you don't have anywhere to go with the ball. You got to extend plays. You know, and Clayton does a good job of that. They were pretty stout against the run. You know, with their inside 3. So in the quarterback run game, we had some things designed which we will use in critical situations. I think he's a big proponent of that. You know, if that gives us the best chance to get a first down or get a touchdown, then we're going to do that. I got a bunch of allergy stuff going on today. I apologize. I know I cough a lot, but it's extra bad today.
Coach, could you go over a little bit the strategy and the thought process behind taking the ball first in overtime?
Great question. Didn't know that one was coming today.
Yeah.
You guys heard of analytics? I've started really paying attention to that here within the last like five years. 2-point conversions, when you go for 2, especially with the new overtime rules. When those things got kicked in last year, we did a huge study on overtime. Like if I would have went for 2 if I was LSU last night. You know, after you score that thing with 0 seconds on the clock, you got all the momentum. Overtimes, you're going to probably end up having 2-point conversions, right? With the new rules and the second overtime, the third overtime with 2-point conversions. In general, we've worked more 2-point conversions in the last 2 years than I have probably in 18 years collectively prior to that. So our overtime strategy was always going to be take the ball. So we went back over the last 6 years, and over the last 6 years, 54% of the teams that had the ball first won. Okay, over the last 3 years, 56% of the teams that had the ball first won. I think that's enough to move the needle. You know, so everybody's like, well, you can't do that. Well, what do you mean you can't do that? They give us an option to be able to do it, so the analytics say do it. I'm not worried about the perception of not doing what you're supposed to do. Unconventional ways of doing things give you better odds of being able to be successful. I'm going to do it, and if there's criticism involved in it, then I don't care. There's analytics that say do it, and so we do it. So our team understands this. The last 2 years in spring football, the only way I've really been figured out how you practice overtime is to split your squad and practice overtime. And so the last 2 years in spring football, we've split the squad and we've practiced overtime. Red team versus white team, whoever wins the toss is going to take the ball. The other thing I think gives you an advantage on that, one, you just the thing about overtimes, that thing hits you quick and it's over quick. So if you're not prepared, then you can be in trouble. So if you wait until the coin toss to figure out who wins the toss, and then you got to figure out if you're on offense first or if you're on defense first. I just think that extra 5-10 minutes of before you know gives you an advantage to be able to know you're going to be on offense first and get it ready to go. And then defense. You say, well, if it's an advantage offensively to know what you got to do after the first thing. Well, it's an advantage defense to know what you got to do based on what the offense did before. It's our philosophy. People don't agree with it because that's not how things have been done in overtime over the last 100 years, I could care less. I mean, the analytics, they do it. We studied it. Ryan Dorchester's a pretty bright individual and did a very in-depth study. We got support. We practice it. Our team understands it, and that's the way it's going to be.
Dana, at right tackle, Ruben and Lance both got in there. Going back on the film, sort of any takeaways from there? Is that still just, see who plays better in practice?
Yeah, they both need to improve. They both need to improve.
Coach, I was going to ask also about the surface over there. It seemed like a lot of slippage from y'all's end. I don't know if it was both ways or not. Was there anything approached different wise in terms of maybe different shoes on either side? Did it seem more slippery than normal, or was that just me?
We had some guys on the ground defensively because they were just out of control.
Oh, okay.
The surface was fine. I didn't see any of their guys slipping. So we practice staying on your feet. We talk about staying on your feet. If you're on the ground in football, which everything in the game of football is meant to be practiced and played on your feet. If you're on the ground, you're either not very athletic and shouldn't be playing this game, or you're out of control. Unless you're getting tackled or unless you're tackling. We had some guys that were out of control on defense in particular, and you're a better football player if you're on your feet.
What did you think of the offensive line overall after you're able to look at it?
Inconsistent. 3 quarters didn't block very well. Just inconsistent. I'm critical of not just the offensive line, but our blocking on the perimeter wasn't very good either. Our backs need to do a better job in pass protection. They weighted back too much, and UTSA's full steam ahead stuff kind of caved the pocket in a little bit, but there's room for improvement. Okay, and it really comes down to consistency. We have guys that are capable of blocking better and playing better together. Just needs to improve. UTSA got after us. They got after us, and we didn't shut down. We didn't quit. We didn't panic. Kind of got it together, and then the last quarter and a third or whatever it was, we played a little better.
In that last drive, the big one, the 18 play, I believe you guys converted like 5 third downs, and you were 13 of 21 for the game. One of the pluses that you saw, one of the positives in terms of being able to convert on third down throughout?
I told our guys this yesterday. It reminded me of who we were last year a little bit. It's not very explosive. I think we're at like 4.9 yards per play. We lost that stat by 1.5 yards per play. That's significant. Probably the third time in my 12 years as a head coach where you lose that stat by that much and win. And it's because we were efficient. We didn't turn the ball over. We had the one fumble, which our defense went out there and got it back. Okay, we got one turnover, and then boom, the next play we scored. That's a huge stat. It's not what the turnover is, it's what happens after the turnover. Critical downs, like you mentioned, was good. We got in the red zone 6 times, scored 6 times, 4 of them were touchdowns. That met our goal. So we were efficient on offense, we just weren't explosive.
I'm sorry. You mentioned, we didn't get frustrated, we didn't quit, we didn't shut down. What goes into that as you kind of form an identity for this new team? Are you leaning on veteran leaders? What's kind of going on during that process that allows you guys to hang in there until you can get some traction and then turn it on at the end?
Culture more than anything. Yeah, we didn't finish games very good year 1, year 2. We talked a lot about that. Year 3 last year, I would argue we finished pretty well. We finished the season with the bowl win. We finished a lot of the games that were tight games in the fourth quarter with plays from our offense, plays from our defense, plays from our special teams. To be able to finish and win the right way, we talk a lot about it. It's just how we play. If we're up, we need to keep playing well. If we're down, we just need to hang in there and keep the faith. And if we're even, we need to compete hard. So that was talked about all week. And I call them up in the fourth quarter, and we do a little rah-rah speech and all that stuff. I can usually tell in their eye if they're ready to finish or if they're not, and they were ready to finish.
Texas quarterback there's no update yet on him. Do you see, is there a big difference between the two and how you prepare, this week?
The other guys got good experience. We faced the starter last year. We didn't face the backup. Good player, man. I mean, he came in with good experience from Oregon. Big, tall, big arm, athletic. And he could run around a good bit. He got hurt running around. That's why I want to protect our quarterback and get him on the ground and not have to do it very much. I don't have the update. He was holding his arm pretty well. It happened over here. You could tell he was holding it here and he's tried to play 4 or 5 snaps. The quarter ended and they took him out. So I would think it would be fairly significant, but that game was going to go one way and one way only, so maybe they just held him out. I don't know. You're going to prepare for both because the backup played well last year, was the MVP in the bowl game against Mississippi State. He's another big kid that can throw it pretty good and can run around as well, so I don't think their offense will change, regardless of which one of the two it is.
Dana, how do you view opening on the road your first 2 games?
I'm sorry?
How do you view opening on the road the first 2 games?
I'd prefer not to do that. I don't think anybody would prefer to do it. It's the cards we've been dealt, so it's what we're gonna do. We handled that first one pretty well. I said what I said after the game. I mean, mad respect to UTSA and how they play and how they coach and that atmosphere. That's challenging. We found a way. We got a lot of things that we can do better, a lot of things that we can work hard on. Going to another challenging atmosphere. I mean, they're gonna be ready. Joey's got some. Coach McGuire's got some. That place excited. I've got a lot of history at this place and know what they're capable of from a fan perspective, and putting people in those seats and being loud and supporting the Red Raiders. So. Gotta go do it again, but we got an old team that has been in some of those type games a lot. If you look back, the last 2 games of the year last year were pretty challenging road atmospheres. At Cincinnati was electric. The Birmingham Bowl was quite a bit of Auburn fans there, so let's go do it again. We'll be excited to come back to TDECU for 2-3 games after that, but gotta go do it on the road again here on Saturday.
Dana, you've touched on the quarterback and the atmosphere. What can you expect from Texas Tech's defense heading into the matchup?
Trying to figure that out right now. It's every this point in the time in the week is when we got to kind of figure it out, right? So when I get back over there, I may be in a room for 12 hours trying to figure it out. So however long it takes me to try to figure it out. We'll do that. Game 1s are challenging, but new staffs make it all that much more challenging. Okay, so they're a new staff. Regardless of what happened last year against the Red Raiders, you can kind of throw that thing out the window. I don't think our players will. They'll probably have a little extra motivation to want to go up there and play these guys, but they were a good football team last year. The circumstances were a new coach and new staff, so we got to kind of deal with that. Got a history with DeRuyter. When I was here in 08, 09, he was at Air Force as the DC when we played him 3 years, and 3 times in 2 years. When I was at Oklahoma State, we played him at A&M the very next year. So just following his career and where he's been and what he's done, mixed with Joey, I got to try to figure that out. And then offensively, you bring in, Kelly, who's a Cliff guy. How much is it going to resemble Cliff? How much is it going to resemble something that Joey wants him to do? That's what we're trying to figure out right now.
This schedule has been locked in, but you have 2 games now this week and next week where they're future Big 12 opponents.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting.
I was going to ask, is that sort of, give y'all an opportunity, the guys, maybe to see what it's going to be like, maybe a little early look on the road, these places that you're going to be, in the same conference with?
We won't really talk about that. Like I've mentioned before, talking about Big 12 and future doesn't do anything good for the 2022 Houston Cougar football team. The Houston Cougar football team is in the American. Our goal is to win the American You know, and playing non-conference games matter because that dictates, you know, who's in the conference championship game. It dictates where you play that conference championship game. And that's our goal. I think it's cool for the fans. You know, I think it's cool for the future. But as far as our team and what our goals are, that won't be mentioned.
And it might be a little early, but has there been any blowback on that you were critical of that call on the punt return? That's
No,
blowback.
but I have to stand by it. It's the worst call I've ever seen. It's just a shame. It's a shame. As electric as like Marcus was on changing the games and the impact that play has on the games, that play could have impacted how that game went. Yeah, it just electric. I mean, wow. I mean, as good of a punt return as I've seen. And it gets called back for somebody that somebody didn't do. Didn't do anything. Didn't touch him. It didn't touch him. The golden rule is if you don't see it, don't call it. It's a shame.
Last
Do you
question.
embrace the emotion of a game like this? You obviously rematch from last year, another, big Texas school. I mean, your guys are obviously gonna be into this, week.
Yeah, we're gonna be ready to go. We're gonna be ready to go. We're lucky. We realize as a team, that we're fortunate to be sitting here at 1-0. You know, that was a hard fought game. Congratulations to those who compete and win, and encouragement to those who compete and lose. You know, I'm glad I'm on the winning side of that statement. Our team is thankful for that, to each other. We know we gotta get better, and there's a lot of things that we gotta do to improve, and we're excited about doing that this week. Big challenge in Lubbock. Get used to it. These games are gonna happen a lot.
We'll go one more final question to Joseph.
Dana, as you, it's probably more for the fans, but as you go into a league that has a lot of Texas schools that you're gonna play compared to where you're at now, is rivalry with schools like Tech, is that sort of the thing with Baylor, TCU, where you can establish that?
Yeah, it should start trending that way. It should start trending that way. That was the way things were here 30, 40 years ago. And it's the way things are gonna be in the future. Not just for football, but those basketball matchups are gonna be pretty awesome. Those track and field events are gonna be pretty awesome. Those volleyball events and baseball events are gonna be pretty awesome. It's really not, I'm glad we got a chance to do that. That previous place I was at, at WVU, that we couldn't really do that coming into the Big 12. Houston, we can kind of do that. So I think that's naturally gonna kind of take care of itself, gonna take some time. But that's kind of cool for our fans to get excited about.
Ever been hit by a tortilla?
I have.
Corner.
I've coached a lot of games in Lubbock. I was up in the box for 8 years, but I've been on the sidelines there, I think 5 years, 5 times in Lubbock, 5 times since I left there. It's an awesome place, got a lot of memories there. I used to throw the tortillas on my way up to the press box, and now I'm getting hit by them, but that's cool. As long as they're not slapping me with them. The whole slap your face tortilla, that makes no sense. Why would somebody do that? But they do they throw them and they roll them up and whatever. It's better than rocks.
Thanks so much.
Waste